Yes, us. Welcome to the Kefi Life Podcast. My name is Kiki Vale, and I'll be your guide to creating a life of Ola Kala, all is well. Together, we'll get back to the basics, and we'll explore fresh new ways to flourish in mind, body, and soul the Greek way. You can look forward to interviews, stories, essential self-care strategies, recipes, and actionable takeaway Ola Kala moments. This is going to be so much fun. Let's get going. Πάμε! Our Lexi for today is Entero, or gut. Friends, we already know that the human body is miraculous. But did you know the crucial role of the Entero, or gut? The Entero plays a key role in absorbing your nutrients for good health and protecting your immune system. A healthy Entero, or gut, will influence your mental health and your mood. If you're interested in a healthy gut, consider doing these 3 things every day. 1, incorporate fiber-rich foods. 2, stay well hydrated. And 3, do regular low-intensity exercise. Entero, a precious commodity to behold. Hi, it's Kiki Vale, the Queen of Olives. I'm supercharged right now. I'm going to share some very exciting news with you. Are you ready? Drum roll, please. Kefi Life is offering you and yours the opportunity to get health in a bottle for $5. Yup, you heard me right. Our team has just launched the super blowout sale of our mini bottles of olive oil. That's right. Kefi Life extra virgin olive oil is making space for new design, and you're going to benefit from it. Mini bottles of extra virgin olive oil, high in polyphenols, antioxidants, and an elixir to reduce dementia and cancer, only $5 a bottle. These bottles are 250 milliliters inside. I call them minis. They're $5 each until supplies last. 2 ways to get them. Cafe La Fortuna coffee shop at 46 North Village Place in Hinsdale, Illinois, or visit KefiLife.com. $5 super blowout sale for Kefi Life extra virgin olive oil bottles in the mini size or until supplies last. No minimum, no maximum. It's olive oil for all of you. Sending you kisses. Vilaya. Yes, and I love when you stop by the Kefi Life podcast. This is episode 190. We're wrapping up Women's History Month with a spotlight on a very strong and beautiful Hellenic woman by the name of Dr. Georgia Andrianopolis. Hers is the story of a Hellenic woman's journey to success in the face of challenges, adversity, a new language, and learning a whole new way of life in a whole new world. But first, friend, if you like my content and you find it encouraging and uplifting, be sure to follow me on Instagram at KefiLife_, TikTok at KefiLife, and of course, let's connect over at LinkedIn by finding me at Kiki Vale. Today, friend, you're really in for a special treat because you will hear a firsthand story of one woman's journey to success while holding the perspective of an outsider, if you can believe that one. My guest is Dr. Georgia Andrianopolis. She immigrated from Greece to America as a young girl and navigated her way to a lot of success, lots of education, and she's here to talk about it. I want to find out about her obstacles. What were the challenges? What is her advice to every woman trying to make it in a man's world? Let's find out now. Kalos irtis. Welcome, Dr. Georgia.
Hi, Kiki. Delighted to be here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's my honor. And how are you doing today, my friend?
It's a beautiful day. Already been out walking and working. A little bit of everything.
Good for you. Good for you. Well, I really appreciate you being here. You founded a company, Brain Fitness, with an impressive education. I'd love a snapshot of your background before we explore the path taken.
Oh, yes, of course. I completed my doctorate at Case Western in Cleveland in neurophysiological psychology. And then went on from there back to Chicago, where my family originally immigrated to. Completed a postdoctorate training for about 4 years at U of I in the medical school. And then I stayed on as part of the faculty at the U of I Medical College of Medicine for several years until my second child was born.
Oh, that's impressive. And, you know, it would seem as though you were a person who had all these opportunities and privileges and blessings, but that's just really not the case. Let's go back to the beginning. Let's give a little look at who you are and what you did and how you got here. What age did you come to America? And were you prepared for the journey? How did you prepare?
So that was easy because I had no this voice in the decision making. I was, as you said, a young woman. I was pre-high school. So my family immigrated. And in many ways, I'm fortunate because I came to, as part of my family, with my family, but an older sister was already living in Chicago and had a family going. And so we transitioned relatively smoothly to this country. So that part was also my future because I'm the youngest of 5 girls.
Wow.
And I was,
wow.
Yeah, that was a lot. And that actually plays into the background as to why my parents decided to immigrate in the first place. I like to think, and maybe this is a good time to start in the beginning. So the 5th of 5 girls, at that time in a village right outside of Nafplion, essentially within maybe 5 kilometers from the Epidavros, the theater of Epidavros, and it's the county of Epidavros. So you have 5 girls, and my parents pretty much already knew that was a problem. Meaning what? That was a problem in terms of opportunity, academic, educational opportunity. It was also a problem socially because it was as we all know, globally, probably it's a patriarchal world, but especially in Greece at that time. I have no idea why, but my dad was particularly tuned into this, having 5 girls narrative that was very dominant at that time in Greece. What was problematic for him was that his girls were not equal as boys. And so I like to say that my dad was the first, probably the only feminist in the 60s in a small village in Greece. But he became a feminist because, but maybe he had no other choice.
5 girls with a wife? Oh my gosh. He had no choice at all.
Yes. And so it was his goal that we all become educated, period. The narrative was, yeah.
I have to say, I admire that so much, that a man wanted his girls educated, because education is really the path to success. So first of all, kudos to your dad for that.
We are all very grateful. So my parents made the decision to come to the United States, to Chicago, where an older sister had already established her life and family. And so that part of the transition, worked. So I arrived in Chicago with a narrative of higher education already built in through upbringing, thanks to family really valuing education. But then nothing really prepared me for day one of the Chicago public school system. I got lost a lot. I really didn't understand much.
Did you speak English?
I had some tutoring. However, it was in British English. So what little English I did understand, it was not in an accent I could understand. So it was a lot of difficulty, but as difficult as my life was, my older sisters probably had more difficulty because they were college age. So that was more iffy for them, and they had their own struggle in eventually getting into college. And because I was younger, I was able to go through middle, high school, and, relatively smoother compared to them.
Fortunately, you were young, because I feel like people that are younger assimilate a little bit easier than a person like, let's say, 30, 40, 50. So I think maybe that might have worked in your favor, but still in all, like when you have to come to a new country and learn a new culture and a new way of life and try to fit in and everything, that's got to be so difficult. What about your background may have made it easy to fit in?
I felt right at home in terms of academic people or society, or especially the school system, was very much aligned with my upbringing. So even though I didn't speak the language, I didn't really know my way around, that part, the academic excellence, was very familiar to me. And so that inheritance, we talk about inheritance, sometimes financially, but we don't pay as much attention to the intellectual, the endowment of our ancestors and how much they valued the quest for knowledge in its own sake, not as a means to an end, but learning things because it's a virtuous thing, the number one virtue, you might say. So I grew up as having that as my number one virtue, which, at the time I didn't realize other kids didn't share that. But I think being from my family and of Greek origin, that was very much, in my radar.
That's such an advantage. At least it sounds like it. So you come to America, you have to start to learn your way around. You're the youngest of 5. You've got this endowment of education. And by the way, I think that is one of the most attractive things about a person is when they can speak eloquently and they are able to communicate and have an open mind. After all, Michael Bartley used to say, he used to talk about the Socratic method, which is sort of like a form of debate. And I think it's good for us as people. But anyhow, moving forward, how did you navigate where you would go to college, what your what would be your profession? Did you have a proclivity to neuroscience? Because that's not an easy thing to discuss the brain and understand the brain.
It was up to me to find out whatever the resources were within my high school initially. To find out what is the process. So I like to think as the Chicago school system at the time employed a lot of hippies who just were open-hearted and open-minded. And they just loved to me, they welcome foreign students with open arms. Mm-hmm. And that was a group of English as a second language, also in addition to my coursework. And so I think I asked a lot of questions from them. So, counselors. Eventually, I also in the community, the Whispering in the Greek American community, and we ended up in Logan Square at that time, which was a thriving immigrant Greek American community. And the Whispering and, socially was everyone goes to UIC or they go to Wright College. So those were the two options. For many, many reasons, I had it in my brain that I wanted a different academic experience. Lots of alleys and dead ends later. I ended up undergrad at Butler University in Indianapolis.
Okay.
Which was a huge deal for my parents because they, as a part of the immigrant community, they also believe that a girl needs to stay home, go to school nearby, and you can't be, 4 hours away. You need to come home and sleep in your house at night. That was a big challenge to sell it to my parents.
I know the story well.
And to sell that story to my parents, the only reason they were successful is because they valued the education so much. I teased, like, if I said, Mom and Dad, I'm going to go to the moon because it's good for my studies, they would say, go.
That's great.
Let's go.
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
They said yes to that. After that, I went on to apply for a Ph.D. program. I was lucky enough to be selected at Case Western. As we said, I studied neurophysiological psychology, which is essentially what interested me. You asked me that question. What interested me is I'm always interested in the root causes of anything. What is the root cause of diabetes? What is the root cause of depression? And so as an undergrad, I was a pre-med major because I was heading into medicine, mainstream medicine. And I did not take any psychology courses until probably I was a junior. And then I picked up a book and it was Physiological Psychology. That was the title. And the course was Physiological Psychology. And I said, voila, I have arrived. I now can go delve into the root causes of why we feel what we feel. At least that's what I thought at the time. I now realize that we still don't. But at that time, it just seemed like I have arrived. I convinced my psychology professor to allow me in third year course level, even though I had no prerequisites. And I'm like, I think I'm interested in your course, but I have no psych background. And he was kind enough to allow me in. And so I took physiologic psych, and I really, fell in love with it and continued studying all the way then.
What I find so interesting about that, Dr. Georgia, is that the physiological aspect, the component of our brain and our thoughts really do manifest in our body. And I've always been intrigued by that. I don't know what you would say to that, but I feel like the two go hand in hand.
I've come through the years to study different aspects of brain and behavior, and brain and body. My postdoctorate actually was brain and gut. So the connection between emotion and gastrointestinal functioning. That was what I studied at the University of Illinois Medical School. So the brain is an organ that essentially, the way I've come to see it, not only, its number one priority is to allow us to predict the outside world, to sense, to perceive, and to think about the outside world so that we can be successful and navigate. Because at the end of the day, what is your brain but encased in a bony, cold, dark environment, right? It doesn't, on its own, it relies on your senses in order to make sense of the world. So it is an organ of prediction and sensation.
I was just talking about the brain-body connection and how our thoughts do manifest into our body, and our bodies can respond to how we're thinking. And I have heard something about the gut that says the gut is the brain of the something. I can't remember now.
I think what you may have heard is that the gut is the primitive brain. So
okay.
It's a type of brain. It's called the enteric plexus, the enteric nervous system. So we have the central nervous system, which is brain and spinal cord. And then we have the enteric nervous system, which is the gastrointestinal system. And we think it carries a more primitive level of awareness and intelligence.
Interesting. So you said that the brain is an organ of prediction. Yeah. So is our brain trying to not only navigate our success, but help us to survive? And if we misinterpret some information, it could work for or against us. And maybe that's how we get sick and we develop these inflammation diseases.
Oh, that's so complicated. So
I shouldn't laugh about that. It's really terrible.
Autoimmune diseases, is that what you mean?
That's really what I mean. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So that is the best example. I'm glad you brought that up. The best example of how body and mind interface is autoimmune diseases. And so why is that? Because our studies have shown since the 50s and maybe even before that the way we feel impacts our immune competence, whether we are our immune system is functioning at baseline, above or below. And that is 100% related to many things, but above all, emotion. So that is where the enmeshment between body and mind reside. One of the key systems is the immune system. Body and mind come together, and depending on what your appraisal of the world is, if you think you're loved, if you love other people, if you think you're valuable, your immune system becomes higher, better.
Interesting.
However, if you feel that you don't have any meaning, you're not loved, and you're not important in life, the opposite is true.
That is fascinating. And it's also sad because some people don't have the good fortune to grow up in a good family. Their environment plays so much a role into that appraisal of the world.
It is sad. I heard this, I think just yesterday, that having one person that you can say good morning to every day, is a predictor of longevity and health.
Oh my God. Having one person to say good morning, having one person to say good morning to is a predictor of longevity and health.
Right. That one connection.
It does make you feel good if you can do something so small to make someone feel so big.
Yeah.
To make someone feel so big that it just like gives me chills right now. And I think we need to focus on that. That's a whole nother episode about our attitude and paying attention and being aware of those around us. Share some personal, because today I really want women to benefit from your strength, from your journey. Share some personal experiences or wake up calls, if you will, that you discovered on your journey to become a PhD in a very maybe male dominated area or profession.
Well, as luck would have it, my father's, raising daughters, in knowing it's a male dominated world. And, that came in very, very useful. And number one, it allowed, I think he passed on qualities that are deemed to be more masculine. I don't know why, but we were definitely, my sisters and I, more assertive than the typical, maybe the average girl at the time. We knew we were very goal directed, very assertive, and we were very good at fighting obstacles already from our family upbringing. So give us adversity, we will overcome adversity. That was the narrative. We could fail. It's not like we succeeded. Maybe 1 out of 20 attempts would succeed, but we were definitely going to try again. So a lot of tenacity. So that is a huge gift that we already had. That prepared us for that male, for the professional world that we were seeking. I was seeking, science, and I was seeking, after my doctorate, a postdoctorate position in my area of interest, which was at the time the relationship, as I said, between brain and gastrointestinal tract. Literally, there was no such thing. It's hard to imagine today, but in 1989, 90, the field of gastroenterology was not in existence that I know of. And so here I am. I have an interest in brain-gut connections, how emotions influence GI tract. Nobody has a program like that I can go to. So you would think I would stop, but I didn't. I used the phone book. I used, whatever. There was no internet. So I had to find out, who is a gastroenterologist who is interested in emotion. The answer is nobody. Nobody is interested in this.
You're a pistol. Oh my gosh. Nobody, but you were going to find a way.
And I'm like, but this is what I want to study.
Yeah. Oh, wait. I like what you just said, but this is what I want to study. And because the opportunity doesn't exist, there's something called necessity is the mother of invention.
Exactly.
But I want to study this. Let me find a way. Bravo. Kalalakanis. I love it.
So I called University of Chicago, Dr. Kushner, who is a legend gastroenterologist. He's like, I love your idea. I am not your person because I don't have the means to support what you want to do, your research. So long story short, I ended up in GI surgery, University of Illinois at Chicago, College of Medicine. Why? Because Dr. Bombeck, who was the chief of GI surgery, said, yes, yeah, I can do this with you. A very progressive man. Who at the time, was in cutting edge technology, using probably one of the first to use like computer systems, in the way that he did. He said yes to me, and he had no women faculty in his department. I was the only one. There was a researcher, Ph.D. Biochemist, who was a few blocks away in the Cook County Research Facility affiliated. But I was the only one actually in the building, in the department with a group of men, residents, fellows, and faculty. And voila, my upbringing with my dad and, women and the role that played, it was beautifully, not by intention, but it just happened by luck that I was very comfortable. They were comfortable with me, the other faculty, the men. And Kiki, the one thing that I love and I'm so grateful about my experience academically is that it was men that actually mentored me. I relied on men to learn. They were my professors. they were my mentors, and they went out of their way to help me along. And I know that sometimes men can be, they don't want to share power with women. Some men, that is true. I think I was really lucky because it was not one or two, it was a dozen and more, people who went out of their way to add to and facilitate my growth.
What would your advice be for working women who are striving to be successful in a man's world? What would you say to them that could possibly help them?
The one word that pops up is tenacity. Tenacity. What does that mean? You may feel uncomfortable in a man's world, and you can feel the discomfort, but do it anyway. Tenacity doesn't mean, I like this thing and I do this thing. Tenacity means this thing is going to be hard, but I know I will prevail.
That is such an admirable trait to have, to know what's in your heart and to go for it. And I have the adversity, I have the challenges, but the reward, my daughter's boyfriend said this to me the other day and I loved it, Joey. He said, why don't you find out what happens if you don't give up?
Yes.
Isn't that a simple way to look at it?
Yes. Yes. I mean, sometimes shifting perspective makes all the difference.
Shifting perspective. Well, I love your perspective. I love the lens in which you see life. I think your dad sounds amazing. Was he an educated man?
No.
He was not. Okay, but he knew.
My dad was a philosopher in his thinking, but not formally educated.
How about your mom?
My mom was the pragmatist. So we had the philosopher, dreamer, and we had the pragmatic. And that was the fusion that was dominating my world.
Well, that's fantastic. From one Hellenic woman to another, I am so proud of you. I am proud to call you my friend. I am proud of your success and how you make the world a better place.
Thank you. I share those feelings, I have to say.
Thank you, Dr. Georgia. I wish you a wonderful day, and let's have you back again soon.
Sounds good, Kiki. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Kiki Vale is the founder of Kefi Life. She is passionate about whole person wellness and living a fulfilled life. Her Kefi Life podcast is created to simply and naturally help you harmonize the mind, body, and soul the Greek way. Visit KefiLife.com and check out Kiki Vale on LinkedIn and on Twitter. Join us again next time for more positive energy and inspiration on Kefi Life.